Winter's here, the cold bastard. But you know, dear winter, we also can be bastards. Pretty persistent bastards, in fact. Well, to be honest, I love winter. It's so beautiful. It's just, sometimes I really need a kick in the ass to go out. But when I do, I really enjoy it. Look at that. So, here we are again at the same spot like at episode 1. Looks pretty different, right? Well, things change.
The second thing I observed over the years, which all super successful gold prospectors have, is in fact two things. They are extremely persistent and determined. And again, this is a universal key to success, true for almost everything.
Gold prospectors' greatest achievements have not come about by talking, but by persistence and determination.
As already mentioned in episode 1, understanding is easy, but implementing is not. So the question is, how can we be that persistent and determined? I'll come to that later in this episode.
The relation between your chance of being successful and how hard you work is not linear, in fact. There are thresholds, and if you stay below a certain threshold, your chance of being successful is very low. It's up to luck then, in fact. So, and unfortunately, in gold prospecting, this threshold is really very high. And yeah, that's basically one of the reasons why gold is so expensive. Okay, let me show you why this is. I'm sure you all know very well this kind of placer gold deposit charts. Yeah, from the books and tutorials. But unfortunately, it's very common among us hobby gold prospectors to misunderstand them. They are not maps of the location of the gold. No, they're not. So what they show, just looking around here, I have to check this spot out in spring. What they show is a zone of higher likelihood for the gold to deposit.
What's really bothering you, Tim?
Oh, there's some bedrock here. Interesting. But, you know, of course, for sure, you want to try it inside this zone, but don't think that inside this zone there is evenly distributed gold. Well, there are exceptions, like always. If the gold is very, very fine, and if there's just sand, or if it's a large band and a large deposit, then it can be pretty homogeneous, or, well, even then it's not homogeneous, but it's not as spotty as, for example, this typical spot. It becomes even worse, because that whole shit is three-dimensional, you know? There are layers And gold normally is also not evenly distributed within a layer. It's often on layer changes, and unfortunately these layers, they are not homogeneously. They go up and down and left and right. On top of that, the gold often tends to be lower. It's rarely in the top layers. This can happen also, but it's often quite low. So you have, if you really want to gather information about a spot, basically, yeah, when you are not down to the bedrock, you are not sure. You know what I mean? So that's the reason why we have to be really persistent and really determined when prospecting, not jumping around and doing a bit there and there. Really have to be thorough.
Is there anything you don't know, Wilson?
I don't know.
If we look at that tangled stuff here, you understand why it's not homogeneous, right? And another good thing to understand is go to a creek when there is some flooding. There's like a, yeah, that's a crevice down there with rocks in it. And now let's make a jump in time. I want to show you some footage which I took earlier the year. Let's go. Das ist ein Scheisstag heute. Was sagst du, Eto?
Heute ist wüst und grusig und kalt.
This was really a shitty day. Not because of the rain, but because of the flooding. It filled our spot the third time with overburden and we had to shovel it out again. What we didn't know at that moment was, after the third time we shoveled the overburden out, and after we uncovered another yard of virgin bedrock, the gold started to show up. So that day we learned it one more time. If we wanna find that gold, we have to shovel that one extra yard. We are very glad we did. It can be very difficult to decide when to stop and quit a spot. The major key to persistence is topic of episode 1. The best motivation for being persistent is the love for doing what you do. A good example are children. They are basically not very persistent, right? Wrong. They are persistent exactly in the right way. A child can be fully immersed in what it does for hours. It forgets time, cold feet, pain, hunger. It's fully in the flow until it's completely exhausted. Do you remember these completely happy moments in your childhood when there was just you and your task? As an adult, we call this flow. That flow state is the state in which we have maximum efficiency. The major key to determination is what we do has to make sense. We have to stick to the facts, think rational. This is the topic of episode 3. And again, the problem is its implementation. What are the facts? How can we be sure? Well, we can't. Let me spoil episode 3 with the so-called duck test. If it looks like a duck, swims like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. Well, it could be a rabbit in disguise, but that's rather unlikely.
Ha! I tell you guys, this was so freaking cool.
So persistence and determination, right? But then, We don't want to die as bitter men sitting lonely on a fucking pile of gold. So, we must not forget to have fun and to love. To love is the highest wisdom of all.